Okay, we're going to do a 2-for-1 review, which usually is done because maybe there's not enough to say about an individual one to justify a video. But it's going to be Hayride and Hayride 2. Both of these are available from, I think it's Movie Zane online. They do like the on-demand stuff. The same ones did the 8 film stuff where I've been doing. But these movies are also on Tubi if you want to watch them, although Hayride seems to come with quite a bit more commercials than normal on there. But nonetheless, it's a indie slasher that, for some reason to me, it kind of like reminded me a little bit of Malevolent or whatever that one film is. You know, they had like Alexander Daddario in the second one. It kind of has like that vibe for the first one. It's this big guy escapes from prison, and next thing you know, people start dying, and then we learn of the legend of Pitchfork, and people start getting killed on a hayride, which is where the name Hayride comes from. Gore is good. That's a common thing with all these movies I've been watching lately. It seems like the gore is pretty decent, even if everything else is kind of subpar. But the gore is pretty good. The killer, I mean, he kind of stands out because he's big, but at the end of the day, he's just wearing a sack over his head, like we've seen a million times over. So maybe they could have been a little more creative on what the killer looks like. Although, there's never too many wooded slasher movies out there, so it is what it is, and the cast is what they are. There's a cousin who's got two cousins, but they consider each other brothers, and one's got a girlfriend, and they're kind of like the thick of things, and their dad's around because he runs the hayride, and things are kind of slow at first till we get to the hayride, to the night of the hayride, and that's when people start getting picked off, and the action picks up, and that's probably when it's at its best. It starts off pretty slow though, but when it gets to that point, I will admit it gets a lot better. Um, but by that time, it's almost too late. And we end on a bit of a twist, which is another common theme with these movies we've been doing lately. There's a lot of twists going on. Although this one is one of the better ones, I believe. And it sets the bar perfectly for the sequel that we're going to talk about momentarily. But Hayride, this is a burn on demand disc if you get this one. It is Region 0. Like I said, or you could watch it on Tubi. But I'm gonna give it a 2.5, which is middle ground. I think it's middle ground. If you like slashers like me, you'll get a little bit out of it, even though it's a little underwhelming. But still, I can appreciate it for what it is. Which leads us to Hayride 2, which, if you couldn't tell from this, is only available on DVD. This one's not burnt on demand. This one is actually a pressed disc and freestyle media, so you can blame or give a thanks to for this one. But it picks up literally moments after the first one, and we're kind of doing the slasher trope of going to the hospital. We did that on Halloween too, and we did it on what was it, Cold Prey. Cold Prey went to the hospital, but this one doesn't stay there, and there's a lot more characters that get involved. Although I will say there's all the characters that survived the first film are back, and we find some creative ways to get people that were killed in the first one back momentarily. And we actually have some characters that kind of get built up a little bit, but then they just kind of, they don't make it. And that's the bad thing, because there's some good characters I think they killed off in exchange for some bad characters that they probably could have did away with. But it is what it is. The gore is pretty decent in it again. The overall story is better, a little bit more action this time. It doesn't really waste much time to get where it needs to get, and it probably ends up being better than the original one by a slight margin, which would probably make it a 3 out of 5 if you had to rate it. So it's better than this. Although they're both solid. There's a door left open for a third one, but I read online that apparently there's not going to be a third one. So I don't know. That's what they all say. And then next thing you know, there's 8 sequels, but we'll find out. But like I said, same MO for the killer. It gets a little creative in some ways and kind of leads you astray in some ways, only to pull you back in and you think, well, that's actually quite interesting for once. So I'll give it a little bit of credit here, but better than this one, but maybe a little more original than this one, even though they're continuing the same story. But at the end of the day, if you had to go with one, I'd go with Hayride 2, although you kind of need them both to complete the story. So if you've seen those, let me know what you think about them, and do you think we need a 3? Because I'm a little on the fence about it.